Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of Parashat Pointers, where we delve into the weekly Parasha and we look for inspiration, how to raise our children. This week's Parasha is Parashat Emor. I do not have a sponsor or a dedicator this week, but Ezat Hashem, we'll have one for next week. The Pasuk says, V'ki tizbechu zevach todah la Hashem litzonechem tizbachu. We're talking about the Korban Todah, giving this beautiful Korban, thanking Hashem for what He did for us. Now, before we get into what the Korban Todah was and the messages, but I want to talk about how key and how important it is to have the ability to express appreciation in all our relationships. You want to get along with people, you got to be a person that appreciates when things happen. Not only is it important with other people, but of course it's the central part of our relationship with Hashem. We have to appreciate what God gives us. Now, one of the methods of expressing thanks to Hashem was the Korban Todah, this sacrifice, an offering of thanks to God. If a person had one of four things that happened, either he was freed, he was a captive that was freed, or he crossed the sea, or he crossed the desert, or he was in a very bad illness that he got out of. The person now goes to the Beit HaMikdash and says, "Thank you, Hashem. I want to thank you for saving me." And involved in this korban was 40 loaves of bread. And he has to eat it in one day. Now, it's impossible to eat that in one day, even if it's with his family. I mean, he's 40 loaves. He had to invite a lot of people to eat this food with him. Why? Our rabbis teach us that Hashem wants him to share with others his happiness, his joy, his appreciation to Hashem for saving him. And that spreads the message that we want to give to everybody about what Hashem does for us on a daily basis. Now, if it's important to share with other people, how important is it to share with our family and our children? It's so important. We don't realize that our kids are hearing everything we say. You got to publicize to them and tell them, hi, Hashem does for us on a daily basis. We have to vocalize to our children the never-ending kindness of Hashem that He puts on our community. He's constantly helping us. Look what Hashem does for us. Our bodies, our senses, our families, our communities, our comforts. The list goes on and on. But you got to talk about it. They have to hear it. I recently read an article about a young man who passed away at 36 years old. When he was born, his parents were told he will not make it through the year. He had, by age of 2, a number of heart transplants and surgeries, and he was always upbeat to the end of his life. And they asked him, "How are you so upbeat?" You know what he said? He goes, "I expect nothing. My expectations are for zero. Everything I get is a gift, and I'm happy about it." Our children have to understand that. They have to understand all the good that's coming their way. Now, if one listens to the news, you listen to the news, you hear all the bad that's happening, quote unquote, you're going to go into a sea of despair. It's terrible. Nothing could be worse than this, by the way. Because there's so much to appreciate in this beautiful world Hashem made for us. There's so much happy things. There's flowers, trees, clouds, there's everything. But yet, if you listen to the news, it's just everything's terrible. Everything's coming to an end. Everything's bad. Wars, horror. Why would we subject ourselves to that? Why would we subject our children to that? Why would we focus on all that terrible negativity if there's so much good to focus on? Because when you see things are bad, who are you thanking? Nobody. But if so much is good, you thank Hashem. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The greatest way to train our children to appreciate all the good in their lives is to help them recognize it. Make them aware of all the things they receive. When you ask them, "Hey, you want a snack?" Don't say, "Do you want a snack?" Do you want an opportunity to thank Hashem? Wow, that's what a snack's all about. But that's what it's all about. You have to think. And you could talk. I'll give you a quick exercise. And I spoke about this one time before, but I think it's important to speak about it again. And the truth, this idea is so important to the happiness of every child and every person. To have gratitude. To appreciate all the good things in life. To appreciate just having life. That we should speak about it every week. But let's just talk about coffee for a second, right? So there's someone in Central America that planted coffee seeds. He nurtured the tree for years until it bore fruit. They picked the coffee beans. They hand spread it to dry. The beans were then transported to another plant, a processing plant. It was sorted, graded, roasted, ground, taste tested, and packed. An entire shipping industry is now going to get involved with hundreds of people bringing the coffee to the warehouse in America, where it's trucked, it goes to distribution centers, it goes to a supermarket, people have to stock it. There's a whole infrastructure to provide water for the coffee, an entire dairy industry for milk for the coffee, plus the coupe, the cup, the spoon, it's out of control. Do they appreciate that that's what goes into a cup of coffee? We just quickly drink it and don't even think about it. You must inculcate in your children gratitude, but do it in yourself. Look at your spouse, your house. Look at everything you have, whatever it is, and appreciate it. There's a beautiful story that I've shared, and it's a famous story about Rav Yisrael Gustman. Rav Yisrael Gustman was the Rosh Yeshiva of Netzach Yisrael in Israel. And he used to have outside his front door like a little garden. He used to water it all the time. And his students in the yeshiva were like, what's with you? What's with this watering the garden? And he explained, and he said, when I was when the Nazis were going after us in World War II, I didn't know how I was going to live. And before the war, my Rebbe took me and showed me. My Rabbi took me and showed me all these different plants and things. And then, when I was on the run, I was able to find those plants and survive on it. And I just have Hakarat HaTov. I'm alive because of these plants. Now, of course, these plants were not alive. These plants don't feel. But it was about his attitude of gratitude in his life. That's what it's about. Imagine children, when their parents come to pick them up, why are you late? What do you mean, why are you late? Thank you for coming. That's the important thing. Let's work together to get the kids to appreciate and let them be the type of children that live a life of happiness and gratitude to their parents, to their friends, to people around them, to Hashem ultimately. And they'll live a life of happiness, Be'ezat Hashem.